Hello, friends. We're here at Carter Caves. We have just spoken with our park manager about everything you can do here. Come listen along. So we are sitting here today in the beautiful, even on a rainy day, it's beautiful here in Carter Caves, and hoping to hear some from you about the amazing things you all have to offer here.
Okay.
Not just for summer, but we're leading into the summertime right now.
Yeah.
So anything for summer that people will definitely want to know about Carter Cave State Park.
Sure. I I like to say that every single resort park, or even Kentucky State Park for that matter, has its own character. You know, the reason why it became a state park. And Carter Caves, even in that capacity, is kind of a very unique cave. I mean, we're the only state park in the state of Kentucky, Kentucky State Park in the state of Kentucky, that does year-round cave tours. You know, it's our namesake. It's what we're known for. In Carter County alone, the county that we're located in, there are a little over 200 named and mapped caves.
Oh, wow.
Right. On within park boundary, you find nearly 50 of those. So
Wow.
so nearly a quarter of
quarter,
yeah
right.
a quarter of the caves found in the county are right here within the boundaries of the park. Now you can't necessarily go out and see all of those because they're on very remote areas of the park. But we take commercial tours of two of these cave tours year round. So you can come anytime during the winter or summer, and we've got those two kind of mainstays of Cascade and X Cave. Uh, as you guys are here right now, we're trying to ramp up a couple of our other caves, which are closed typically this time of year because of bat hibernation.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's an endangered species of bat called the Indiana bat, and this is one of the few locations left in the eastern United States where these bats have a home to hibernate in huge numbers, and they're very they don't like disturbance.
No,
So
right.
yeah, we shut it down during the winter time, and we let the bats sleep. And now's the time when they're starting to wake up and come out of the bat cave, as the name might imply. But Bat Cave, and now we're just starting to, as we get closer to Memorial Day weekend, we'll be starting to offer Bat Cave trips, which is, if you go on some of our, well, on all of our tours, they're commercial tours. They're sort of commercially led by a guide. But Bat Cave is kind of your first step into what some people might consider to be wild caving.
Okay.
You know, it's not prepared. There are no lights inside the cave, so it's most people's first chance to experience a cave like that. So we're getting that ready. One of the others that we do is called Saltpeter Cave. It's probably my personal favorite cave. I'm a big
Okay.
history buff, but that cave in particular, the dirt was not necessarily removed, but it was collected inside of the cave, and through a process, it was used to make gunpowder through potassium nitrate, and it had heavy use during the War of 1812. So. And there is a reason why I'm kind of going this direction. So you have the War of 1812, the production of black powder from a resource here at Carter Caves. And then immediately following the War of 1812, you have a situation to where the price of gunpowder drops, right? It drops severely, so there's no money in it anymore. But you already have a system of roads and trails that lead to here from places like Portsmouth, Ohio, and the Ohio River. So, all right, well, if you know about these caves that are around here, and the system is already set up to bring people to and from here, what's something else you can do? And so the tourism industry starts to come out of the War of 1812, and very shortly after that, you start to see newspaper articles from the Louisville Courier-Journal and other reputable newspapers of people coming to Carter Caves, places like Bat Cave and Saltpeter Cave and X Cave. So the tourism industry develops very early here. It's privately owned for many, many years, and then immediately following World War II, there are a group of families who own what we now consider to be Carter Caves now. who kind of got together and sold it to the state of Kentucky, and that's when it became part of the Kentucky State Park system, is in right around 1946 or so.
Okay.
So caves are what we're known for.
We were here a few years ago, and one of your naturalists,
Mhm.
might have been you, no, I don't know,
Possibly.
never know, had told us, do not miss Box Canyon.
Mm.
And wow,
Yeah.
I mean, that's talking above ground.
Yeah,
That is spectacular.
it's one of my favorite places on the park, and it probably was me because I always push people towards Box Canyon. But that's another oddity, we'll say, because you have a layering of sandstone, which is, and it's actually called Carter Cave sandstone. It's very specific to this area. And when you walk back to that canyon,
Mhm.
you're seeing that 100 feet or so of this sandstone.
It's massive.
It's
a
massive.
wall.
And not only that, it sheared in a very unique way, because sandstone is normally for rain and weather and freeze and thaw. It normally doesn't shear or break off the way that it does in Box Canyon. It's almost a perfect 90-degree angle. So you have that situation where you're literally walking into a box canyon, is what it is, as the name might suggest. But you also get down to a certain point on that trail where you see where the sandstone stops and the limestone begins, and that's where all of our caves are. So all of our caves are in the limestone bedding, but that sandstone above it, you get the honeycombing and the very unique geological features. So that's one of the many things you can come here and see that you can't see other places.
The layering was
The
striking.
layering, yeah, it's very, very unique, and Box Canyon is just one of those places that you can see that.
Yeah, so back to the bats for just a second. You had mentioned large numbers. Like, have y'all done some research and have an idea of how many bats?
Yeah, every other year we have to go in and count them.
Okay.
Could you imagine counting that when you
I
have
can
somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60,000 bats?
So that's
So
the
that's
colony
a
size.
large
Yeah, it's a
number.
huge number.
Wow.
Now, when I was very young, that number was probably closer to 600,000, right?
Wow.
But this species, as I said earlier, is very, very susceptible to disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have 600,000 bats, all it takes is one person with bad intentions to really damage a population. And that's what started to happen in the late 70s, early 80s. The bat was put on the Federal Endangered Species List. I believe it was 1981. And from that moment on, places like Carter Cave, Bat Cave specifically, was a protection for them. And so it's dropped quite a bit. But the good news is, over the past several years of our counts, the number is not coming down anymore. So it's stable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what we find out is that the Indiana bats here at Carter Caves may be the mothering population to most Indiana bats in the eastern United States.
Oh,
So they're
That's
the ones
interesting.
having the babies here,
Okay.
and then these bats will go up to places like the Great Lakes, where they'll spend a lot of the summer. A lot of them stay here, but they'll go up there. They live out kind of the northeastern portion of the U.S., but every single October, they come back here and they're mating, and then they're going to sleep and going
Okay.
into hibernation.
so,
So-
migratory and hibernation. How does one count 60,000?
I'm glad you asked that. It's now-
Okay, I'm going to take a guess. Would
Okay.
it be like you go in and, I don't know, I guess, can you take photos and then just like count and graph out, like grid out the photos?
What they used to do years ago is they would go in, take the square footage,
Okay.
because we know that in a square foot there can be about 300 Indiana bats. So imagine
Wow.
that, 300 bats in a
That's
square foot.
significant,
foot.
yeah. If we
So
had
they
a square
used to
foot
take
here.
the square footage, multiply that by 300, have a rough estimate. But no, we're high tech now, right?
Right.
So what we do is we go in, we take high digital photography,
Okay.
and we do this from the Division for Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife, Forestry, and they take high definition photos. And it's my understanding that those photos go back to basically one person in Fish and Wildlife,
Oh,
Who
and
go-
they're in charge?
and they put a dot on the
Oh,
end of
my.
every bat's nose that they see, and then computer software tallies the number of dots on a photo.
That's
Could you imagine?
fascinating.
Could you
No.
imagine doing that? Sitting
Who's
there going,
who's the guy with the dots or the gal with the
couldn't.
dots?
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine doing that. But yeah,
What a fun job.
it'd be time consuming. I would say because, like I
That's
said, I
so
think the
cool.
last count on park premises, I think we had upwards of about 60,000 Indiana bats.
That's
So
awesome.
somebody had to go there and basically tally all
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
So.
So interesting.
Mhm.
So, I know, so we live near Mammoth Cave National Park, and there are systems put in place to protect the brown bat
Yep.
that lives there with bat mats and things like that. Do
Yep.
you all need
We-
any of those safeguards, or is that not?
We
necessary
do.
here?
We do, and we started doing it about the same time. Mammoth Cave started doing theirs. We based ours on their protocol, but there is a white nose protocol to where we have mats, and we used to treat both people going in and people coming out. But when we identified white nose syndrome as being here, I think it was 2013 or so. It's already here, it here. So the best that we can do is to try to keep it contained to here. And the number one thing that most, everybody comes in and wears shoes.
Sure.
It's going to come in contact with the soil inside of the cave, which could pick up the fungus, and then we treat on the way out.
Okay.
And it's mostly being transferred from bat to bat now. I don't think there's a whole lot of people to bat that's still a contamination point, but we still do it because if anything we do can help, and that's what we want to try to do.
Sure.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any other endangered species here?
Well, we have several state endangered species of flowers that are coming up right now all over the place. Yellow lady slippers, pink lady slippers, and some of the other orchids here. But as far as bats, the Indiana bat, and it's my understanding that a couple of the other species, perhaps tricolored, and one of the others is being considered to be put on the federal endangered species list. You might want to check me out on that. But that's a direct result of the white nose syndrome for the tricolored and the little brown bats. Those are the ones that we've seen during my time here. We've seen a huge drop in, and it goes back to white nose syndrome. And I mean, there are ways that we can treat it, but what we're finding out is non-disturbance is really the best way to try to keep it from propagating.
So, you have the two cave tours that are open year round.
Mhm.
You're working to open a couple more, and they would be more wild cave-like experiences.
Right.
And you have the beautiful trails above ground.
Yeah.
What other things do people need to think about when they're itinerary building to come here?
To come here. Well, we do and talking about trails, we maintain a little over 30 miles worth of trails.
Wow.
So
that's
we
significant.
have one of the largest trail systems in the state park system. Of course, Natural Bridge is right up against places like the Red River Gorge that helps them out an awful lot. But
Sure.
we probably maintain more trail than any other state park in the state. And of course, again, geologically speaking, there are all kinds of very unique things to see here with the geology, very unique things to see with the biology of the area. And once you get here is when you get up on top of the ridges, and most people don't really know this unless they've been told to try to notice this. You'll walk the ridges, and because the soil is a little bit different, you get all kinds of different things growing out here that you'll see on the top of the ridges. But as you go down into the valleys, that soil content changes just a little bit, and you get different diversity down there. So it's very, very diverse here. But I would have to say that in addition to our resources as far as caves and trails and biology, we're known for our recreational programming here.
Okay.
That's a big one. The program has been around for a long time, since the early 1960s. And many of the special events that we do here, really, it would be hard to do anyplace else. One of the ones that is our biggest one is the Winter Adventure Weekend.
We have heard about that.
Yeah.
We have not attended.
Yeah, you don't really think of stuff. You don't really think of stuff to do in the wintertime, but that's probably our largest event. We'll have anywhere from 600 to 700 people who converge from all across the United States. It's always the last full weekend in January, and it started out as an event called Crawlathon.
Okay.
And so the whole point was to come here and you try to crawl through as many caves as you possibly can in
Okay.
like a 48-hour time period.
Okay.
once white nose syndrome hit, we had to back up and kind of take a look at it, and then it became Winter Adventure Weekend. So we were doing all kinds of things above ground: recreational tree climbing, survival, Bigfoot hunts.
Ooh, that's fun.
Bigfoot hunts, which is one of the more popular programs that we do there. We also do all kinds of rappelling work. There's a rappelling area right here in this area that we're in right now, which is also one of the only rappelling areas in the state park system.
Okay.
So we rig those. We do rock climbing, rappelling, rappel swings, just all kinds of different things.
And all of those things really are, I don't want to say common, but they really parallel so much of the spelunking, caving world
High adventure.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the high adventure.
Those are things if you're caving, you're rappelling.
Yes, exactly.
If you're,
Yeah,
if
and
you're caving, you're rock climbing.
we even do a what we call a pit plunge at that
Okay.
event. So we actually rappel into one of the many pits that you find in this area
Oh,
too.
okay.
And one of the great things about that event is not only do we have repeat customers, they come every single year. Some of them have been coming for over 30 years to that event, but it's also a great event for people who maybe have never had a chance to do something before. Maybe this is the only time that they'll ever have a chance to be put on a rope and sent down the side of a cliff. And it's done in a way that whether you're a professional who've been doing this for years or whether it's your first time, it's the perfect event. It's 4 days long now, and over the course of 4 days, we have a little over 200 field trips that you can choose from
Oh, wow.
to do. So,
That's pretty special.
Yeah,
And so if you're a novice, it's for you.
look it up. Yeah, look it
if you're
up
a
and
professional,
go to
it's
it.
for you.
Yeah.
And it's a place where you can feel safe. And
Yes.
There's safety procedures in place. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
Now, you all offer rappelling options in the summer as well.
We do occasionally.
Okay.
We do something called the Natural Bridge Drop.
Oh, okay.
And so we do that normally two times during the summer, and we rig off of one of the largest natural bridges here, and there's what you call a skylight. And so you get a chance to see one of the largest natural bridges in the state of Kentucky in a much different way. Most people are walking under it or walking over it,
But you're dropping.
but you're
from it.
dropping down it through this skylight
Oh, wow.
in a way that not very many people get
That
to see
sounds super special.
it. Yeah, it is very, very special.
And you'll offer that in the winter weekend too, or that's just
No,
summer?
we do the 2 summer dates, but then we do that at Winter Adventure Weekend as well. So there's a lot of opportunity. Well, and I guess we pride ourselves on that I guess high adventure programming here as well.
Yeah. Some places you hear them say your adventures can be mild or they can be wild. So
That's a great saying.
yeah.
I'm going to adopt that. All
Yeah,
right, we're going to
yeah.
put that on our schedule now.
Yeah. But I mean, it's true. Sometimes we want a nice walk through the woods and
Yeah.
perhaps up a crevice in a box canyon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But sometimes we want something a little bit wilder.
Yeah, and
So-
I mean, and Carter Caves does afford somebody who wants to get away from things, and maybe they want to be out on one of the trails by themselves and just kind of take in nature. That's great.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and we're starting to see this again because it kind of dropped off there for a little while of people wanting those guided trips as far as guided hikes, those types of things. And thank goodness I'm starting to see a trend where people now, even though they have their cell phones and they look on their cell phones all the time, but if we can get them here for an interactive, program or trail walk, I'm starting to see the numbers come up on that too, which
Wonderful.
is good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, there's so much that you all know as the
Mhm.
naturalist here that we wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Plane identification, things like that. Now, you all do have wildlife here.
Yes.
We were down at Smoky
Smoky
Lake
Lake.
yesterday and we saw the bear notices.
Okay. Yeah. Good. See, I was gonna. Yeah.
We did notice. So we know at least recently you've had some black bear activity.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, of course, you can't go from here to the lodge without seeing deer. We've got
Yeah.
deer all over the place, wild turkey all over the place, bobcat all over the place.
Okay.
I mean, there are most of the animals that you found in Kentucky 200 years ago. I'm talking about the large animals.
Mhm.
Almost all of them are back in Kentucky, except for one large mammal being the gray wolf. Right,
Okay.
that's one of the only ones that hasn't come back. You will find elk in some of the farther eastern regions. I don't know if we'll start seeing them around here, but like you said, black bears coming back into the area. I've heard reports of eastern cougars.
Oh,
I've seen evidence of them, but I've not seen anything confirmed 100%. Of course, it also depends on who you talk to as to what variety it is.
Of
You know,
course, right.
it could have been an escape of some sort, but almost every large mammal that you found in Kentucky 200 years ago is back, except for those large grazers like the elk and the bison, which you can find bison in places like Lake Barkley and land between the lakes, but they're not roaming freely. But almost all the others are back here in Kentucky.
we understand why it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
This is a good spot to,
Yeah.
I'm sure, for them to feel safe.
Yeah, if the resources are there, I mean, they're going to prosper, and everything is in a good place as far as our ecosystem right now. And so we're seeing a lot of those animals thriving again. I mean, it's. I can remember a time growing up here where seeing a white-tailed deer was an amazing
Remarkable,
thing. Yeah,
right.
I mean, well, the first time I ever saw one, I was living in one of the employee houses here. My dad came and woke me up. It was like 11 o'clock at night. He said, "Come here, you got to see this." So we stood there in awe as we saw this little doe just kind of grazing in our back lawn. And we sat there for 15, 20 minutes, and then it hopped off and it was gone. And I thought that was the biggest thing that I'd seen in forever. And now,
Magical.
yeah,
Right.
now they're all over the place. But all of them are doing very well.
Yeah. We got to stay with you all last night. It was a lovely park.
Good.
Lovely, lovely park. Anything else you would like to make sure people know? I mean, you could probably talk, that's a loaded question, right? Because that could be a 7-hour podcast.
Yeah. It's all the Kentucky state parks are very unique. They're very important for the resources that they try to take care of. But get out there in your state park system. It's your Kentucky state park system, and they're there for you to enjoy. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah. Truly beautiful, set aside places that we are very lucky to have. We are big state park people we've gone to many state parks in many states, and Kentucky's just really special. The Kentucky state park system is really special nationally.
I agree.
We believe so. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's good.
Okay. Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
you
doing
guys.
this.
Thank you all.